So I don't think I've ever actually owned an Archie comic, and yet it's still part of the collective landscape in countless doctors' offices and dentist waiting rooms. It's that weird literary limbo where Reader's Digest exists. Archie comics are still found in supermarket checkout aisles, and you can see their bright primary colors popping out at you. Where the biggest problems of the day are whether Archie's going to pick Betty or Veronica, and where Jughead's going to find his next hamburger. It seems an unlikely place to stage a zombie apocalypse, but that's exactly what Roberto Aguirre-Sacasa does in his Afterlife with Archie series. Illustrated by Francesco Francavilla, this isn't some tongue-in-cheek romp, but a real George Romero Tales from the Crypt pulpy horror comic. Jughead's dog, Hot Dog, is run over, later we learn by Reggie, and so sobbing, he brings the near-dead dog to Sabrina, the teenage witch. Against her better judgment, she consults a Necronomicon and brings Hot Dog back to life with the expected, unexpected consequences. Hot Dog ends up biting Jughead. He ends up staggering to the annual Halloween dance and inadvertently sets off a zombie apocalypse. It escalates pretty quickly from there, and it's gory without being overly gratuitous. And because we already are familiar with these characters, we don't have to spend a lot of time developing them before killing them off one by one. And it's all the more tragic because we do know these characters. We do know how much Moose loves Midge, how much Ethel dotes on Jughead. Francavilla uses a nice muted palettes of lots of oranges and grays and purples and blacks, and it lends a really eerie, creepy tone to the entire story, despite the familiarity we have with these characters. The only off notes still seem to be Betty and Veronica, still vying for Archie's attention in the midst of a zombie apocalypse that sees friends and parents, authority figures, all turned into the undead. Then again, it is love that ultimately kills here in Riverdale in the midst of the zombie apocalypse, and the ginger man-child Archie, who's incapable of deciding between Betty or Veronica, loving anything other than himself, is pretty well the only one that's probably going to make it out of this apocalypse alive. The first story arc ends at issue 5. With issue 6, they take a slight detour, returning back to Sabrina, who also gets to kick off her own series. Sabrina's arcs make the zombie apocalypse seem like a picnic. Hers is all Lovecraftian horror and Cthulhu and Dim Carcosa. They're pulling no punches here, and it is dark stuff, and really good. Sacasa, the writer, is actually written for Marvel Comics, with such characters as the Fantastic Four, Nightcrawler, and the Amazing Spider-Man. He's written for Glee. It hardly seems the natural progression to this dark zombie apocalypse, but he does it and pulls it off with panache. He is in fact now the chief creative officer at Archie Comics. I tell you this because there's big things in store for Archie in 2015. It's the lead into 2016, which will be the 75th anniversary of Archie. The relaunching Archie with Archie #1, written by Mark Waid of Kingdom Come fame and illustrated by Fiona Staples of Saga. It's a chance to bring Archie into the modern day, and the stuff looks fantastic so far. We can also look forward to an hour-long TV drama called Riverdale coming to Fox later in the year, and of course, Archie vs. Predator coming soon. So at 75 years, Archie is doing pretty well for himself. Afterlife with Archie takes a broad detour into the zombie apocalypse and the undead, and it is great, great stuff. So, what's on your comic pull list this week? Let me know in the comments below.